Well, good day, everybody. It's Dr. A back in the garden, and I want to welcome you to a special episode of Stories from the Garden. And thank you for joining me. The reason this is a special episode is I am going to share a sneak peek from my brand new book called The Common Sense Gardener. Common sense turns out is not very common. So you're going to love this book because it gets down to the nitty-gritty of various questions that we all have and gets right to the point. It's a short book, but I think you're going to love it. It's a collection of stories, lessons, and certainly a few laughs from a lifetime spent among plants and the people who love them. And the first few chapters I'm sharing with you are just the very beginning of The Common Sense Gardener. So sit back, enjoy, and have a taste of what's coming. Preface. If you are not confused, you are not paying attention. Tom Peters. There is nothing more uncommon than common sense. Frank Lloyd Wright. We have met often. We have met in classes, on field trips, on walkabouts, in various gardens, and online. We have shared our enjoyment of gardening as well as our frustrations. Over time, I have noticed that gardeners are not really like other people. Not only do we put up with gardening in the rain, drought, cold, heat, and late frosts, we actually look forward to doing it again next year. If I asked you to make a banner about your experience in the garden, it could well read, "Wait until next year," or "You should have been here last week." Gardeners are not normal. And the more I wander around with gardeners, I realize we are a bit like a cult. We are true believers. Gardeners believe the garden will be better next year. We believe that the weather will be finer, and we actually still believe the photos in catalogs. It is not that we are naive. We simply can't help ourselves. Gardeners have more optimism under one dirty fingernail than most people have in their entire bodies. We should all be so blessed. Another thing I appreciate is that gardeners come in all sizes, from grand rolling estates to a few containers on the balcony of a 14th floor condominium. There is no definition of the proper size of a garden, nor the proper plants, and certainly not the time involved. But one thing is obvious. No matter the size, gardeners tend to be passionate. And speaking of gardeners, they too come in all sizes, forms, and ages. Like good wine, gardeners seem to find more enjoyment with age. Oh, I have met frustrated gardeners. I have met tired gardeners. Oh, I have met broke gardeners. But I've never met an old gardener. You can't get old when you're always looking forward to the future. The more I am involved in this thing called gardening, the more I am baffled at how difficult it seems to have become. There are at least 7 books out there on gardening for dummies, each one well over 200 pages. I ask you, what self-respecting dummy is going to read 200 pages about something that already confuses them? I'm often asked what it takes to be a successful gardener. I can drone on and on about learning, research, experience, and what books to read. But the answer is far easier than that. A gardener is resilient. A gardener is patient. And most importantly, a gardener always has a sense of humor and never ever takes him or herself seriously. Whenever gardeners accompany me on walkabouts at my own garden or somewhere I am visiting, I might be asked about a certain plant, or for soil advice, or what trends I am seeing. However, whether the questions are from master gardeners or beginners, I can almost guarantee I will field questions on a dozen different topics, ranging from deer, always deer, to sun versus shade, and to weeds, well, always weeds. I feel your frustrations, but please stop. Calm down. This is not brain surgery, this is gardening. I have been doing this for a while, and it turns out that I have a few years on me. However, the more experts I hear, and the more I read online, I realize that what some people call old-fashioned notions are actually common sense ideas. I have been asked to write a how-to book about gardening for many years, but there are already dozens of books and an endless cascade of online articles. What pushed me over the edge is not the lack of information, but the apparent lack of common sense. So let me simplify. Let's walk together as I share with you the story of the common sense gardener. The quest. He rose slowly from his knees and surveyed what he had accomplished in the last few hours. As he walked around, he quietly cursed the number of uninvited guests still remaining in the bed, and he sighed as he noticed signs of diseases and pests. Evan was a gardener. He enjoyed feeling his fingers in the soil, could not wait to grow more plants and vegetables, and simply loved the whole idea of being a gardener. But he was also discouraged. He spent far more time weeding and too much energy digging a hole in his heavy soil. He did not know how to keep those persistent bugs and disease off his plants without using pesticides. Every time he went to prune a shrub, he wasn't sure if he was doing it at the right time, and he really had no idea where to place a sun-loving or a shade-loving plant. He was frustrated. He wondered when something as simple as gardening had become so complicated. In spite of all these annoyances and questions, he still wanted to spend time in his garden, and he believed there must be fellow gardeners who could help him. So one day, Evan decided to go on a quest to learn how to be the best gardener possible. His travels took him from town to town, where he met gardeners young and old, in large botanical settings and in small in-town plots. He met with accomplished academics who taught and serious master gardeners who learned. He visited gardens of hobbyists who played and of homeowners who were happy to let the blowers blow and the mowers mow. He talked with beginners and veterans. He met with tired gardeners, sore gardeners, and frustrated gardeners. In all of his dialogue with gardeners, Evan noted a very curious thing. Everywhere he went, regardless of frustration, fatigue, sore backs, and foul weather, gardeners always smiled. He couldn't help but wonder why. As part of his quest, he would have to find out. However, the young man was not so interested in happiness as he was in becoming the best gardener he could be. He started to see the full range of how people gardened, and he was often disappointed with what he saw. He wondered how such a satisfying thing as working in the garden had become so complex and convoluted. He talked to people from all over the country, from those who dabbled a bit to those who spent hours in the garden, and as he thought back on his many visits, the one word Evan remembered hearing over and over again was confusion. People were confused about basic things like sun and shade, unclear about terms like invasive and aggressive, puzzled about compost and mulch, and continually in doubt when to prune a plant. What seemed like a pleasant way to spend an afternoon outside had become an exercise in indecision. Chapter 2. Evan meets the common sense gardener. As a young man traveled the country, he heard about the common sense gardener, someone who made things simple and inspired others, and most remarkable of all, a person who willingly shared his enthusiasm and knowledge. He heard wonderful stories about this person, but Evan was quite skeptical after having been disappointed too often. He decided to write the gardener, not expecting a response from a person so renowned, but an invitation to visit immediately appeared on his phone, making him even more skeptical. After all, if this gardener was so famous, how did he have time for Evan? He was fascinated, and setting aside his doubts, Evan resolved to pay the gardener a visit. Evan had driven a long way to meet the common sense gardener, and as he parked in the driveway, he was surprised to find a very modest home and a small garden. As he slowly exited the car, he was immediately greeted by a tall, slim older man with silver hair and a big smile. "Good morning," he said. "My name is John. I received your note, and I must say, I am curious as to what brings you here." Evan replied, "I am trying to learn how to be the best gardener I can be." The gardener smiled and said, "How can I be of help?" Well, I hope you enjoyed that little ditty about the common sense gardener. I would love to share it all with you, but I think you're going to truly love this book. It is a book about those kind of questions that people are all confused about, but with a little common sense, they're not all that difficult. Also, I think you're going to love the way in which the book takes this young man who wants to learn about gardening and puts him with this person called the common sense gardener. I hope you've enjoyed this. There's plenty more where that came from, stories, insights, and of course a few opinions that are going to make you smile, laugh out loud, or scratch your head. If you like that, you can purchase the book at www.allanarmitage, one word, Al's a catch. This is a fabulous book for gifts for Christmas. It's going to be less than $20. It's only available until December 15th. So if you want this for a Christmas gift or just for yourself before Christmas, I'd ask that you order this as soon as possible. There's a limited number of books available and certainly a limited time. I will contact you if you decide you want to order it, ask you if you'd like me to say something special, and certainly sign it for you. Anyway, if you love hearing about plants, gardens, and the common sense, make sure you follow this podcast for more readings and conversations. I'm always telling stories. Thanks for listening. I hope to see you in the garden.